This is an 8-row repeat worked on a multiple of 6 plus 5 using worsted weight yarn and US size 8 needles. To make this stitch, you will also need to have on hand a cable needle or a spare double-pointed needle. Your double-pointed needle should be the same size as the needle you're using to knit with, or it can be smaller. If the needle, your double-pointed needle, is bigger than the one you're using in your project, you can stretch out your stitches. Just something to keep in mind. To make these little clusters, you slip a group of stitches onto the cable or double-pointed needle and wrap the working yarn around them. So you can vary the look of these little clusters depending on how many times you wrap your yarn and how tightly you wrap your yarn. This one here, I wrapped 6 times as called for in the pattern, but I made my wraps really tight. This one right here, I kept it pretty loose and I only wrapped 4 times. This one here is not quite as tight as this one, but it's a little bit tighter than this first one that I made down here. So depending on the look you're going for, you can change it up just a little bit depending on the tightness and the number of wraps that you make for your clusters. For row 1, you're just going to purl all stitches, and you're actually going to purl on every other row. For row 2, you're just going to knit all stitches. Row 3, you're just going to purl all stitches. Okay, row 4, and this is the row, or one of the rows, where we're going to make our little clusters. To start, you knit 4 stitches. And then you begin your repeat. So first we're going to make a cluster, and to do that you knit 3 stitches. And now you need your cable needle or your spare double-pointed needle. And you're going to take those 3 stitches that you just knit and slip them onto your cable or DPN, just like that. And I find it helpful to slide those to the middle of my double-pointed needle. You can do it however is most comfortable for you. So now we're going to wrap our working yarn around these 3 stitches, and you're going to want to wrap counterclockwise and make sure that your yarn is coming underneath of the double-pointed needle, not over but under. So you just wrap 6 times. And once you've made the wraps, you're going to slide those 3 stitches back onto the right hand needle. Don't knit them, just slip them right over. So there is a cluster. And then you knit 3. And that is the repeat. Cluster, knit 3. So here we go again with a cluster. You knit 3. Take your double-pointed needle and you slip those 3 stitches to your DPN. And then wrap your working yarn 6 times around those stitches. And then back to the right needle. And knit 3. And at the end of row 4, you should have 1 stitch left, and you just knit. Row 5, you're just going to purl all stitches. Row 6, you knit all stitches. Row 7, you just purl all stitches. Okay, row 8, the last row, and the second row where we're going to make our clusters. To start row 8, you knit 1 stitch, and then begin your repeat. And the repeat is cluster, knit 3. So to make the cluster, again you knit 3 stitches, and then take your cable or double pointed needle and put those 3 stitches that you just knit onto your double pointed needle. And then wrap your working yarn 6 times around those stitches. Once you've made your wraps, you just slide those stitches back to the right needle, and then you knit 3 to finish up the repeat. So again, you can change the look of your clusters depending on how many times you wrap them and what degree of tightness you wrap them with. So I'm just going to do a few extra wraps on this one just so we get a bigger cluster than the others, just so you can see how that looks. Oops, got stuck there. So you can see how big that one looks compared to the one I did in the row before. I didn't really count how many wraps here. I know there's more than 6, but there are just 6 down here. So they're both nice and tight, but this one is bigger because I wrapped more than 6 times. Okay, so at the end of row 8, you should have 4 stitches. So to finish row 8, you're going to make a cluster. And let's wrap this one only 3 times. And then you just want to knit your last stitch. Okay, so we have a little bitty cluster here, and then our great big one from before. So you just want to repeat those 8 rows for the pattern.